Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Solar YouTube with its economic impact on Black America. And I'm your host, Ronald Bethea, and you know if you join us on a regular basis, the slogan for this show, if there's power in numbers, then the Positive Change Purchasing Corporate LLC captures that power. For your financial benefit, the Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative serves, as we indicated, as an economic blueprint for renewable energy companies, both large and small, along with increasing market share for African and African American renewable energy companies to address the effects of high energy costs at our historically Black colleges and universities. To bring down the under, to develop capacity and initiative to develop programs to bring down the underemployment of young African and African American men and women locally, nationally, and throughout the diaspora. Also to educate the African and African American community about the economic impacts of climate change and the need for environmental education through Black Talk Radio programs such as Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this program today that we're doing a program where we're looking at the issue of energy and equity, diversion, and inclusion. Now, these are words that have been used tirelessly throughout all six federal agencies over the past 4 years. When Biden came to office, the first thing he signed was Executive Order 14008, which gave rise to what we know as the Build Back Better and the Inflation Reduction Act. And the program was called the Invest in America Agenda through the Biden and Harris administration. Now, what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, we're actually looking at what does this really mean and what is the issue. Under the current administration, the Biden and Harris administration, we're looking at an offices which were created under that legislation. And that office was known as EJE, the Office of Energy, Justice, and Equity. Now, the words justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion have been constantly used across all 6 federal agencies. Question: the word justice, equity, and diversity, what do that really mean? The U.S. Department of Office of Energy, Equity, and Justice is getting ready to be completely eliminated across all 6 federal agencies because the Biden and Harris administration, they created this department and these departments through this specific agency through an executive order. Now, that executive order 14008, when we take a very, very close look at what has happened with this, we're talking about an agency which $1.7 trillion was allocated funding, which was to be 40% of this was supposed to be directed at low and moderate income communities, but less than 2% has been invested in and delivered to African American banks, businesses, CDFIs, churches, and other nonprofit organizations. So, with that being said, we have to look at what are we really talking about here when we begin to look at opportunity. What was created by this executive order was an initiative called the Justice 40 Initiative, was created under the executive order 14008, which clearly stated that 40% of the benefit must be directed to low and moderate income communities nationally. But recent data released by the Biden Harris administration, out of 1.7 trillion public dollars spent, less than 2% has gone to African American business, banks, CDFIs, churches, and nonprofit organizations, which we just stated. The largest beneficiary of government minority contract for white women, and 53% of white women voted for Trump against their own interests. This, coupled with the Project 25, clearly makes the case that the new administration plans to eliminate the U.S. Department of Offices of Energy, Justice, and Equity. Which creates an environment and political climate that will eviscerate the gains made through climate action and equity in America. One of of the last and critical opportunities to correct the imbalances of the scale. The department will be eliminated. What is your organization going to do to get Congress to address this urgent and pressing problem of codifying funding to keep these six agencies intact with the teams that have done the work over the last 4 years? Let's look at what's at stake. The Biden-Harris administration and Invest in America agenda is making a strategic public investment in American manufacturing, infrastructure, clean energy, revitalization of the next nation's manufacturing leadership, help derive a steady, stable economic growth across the country in addressing the climate crisis. The Biden president's approach is a powerful tradition in public investment, which has now positioned the United States to be competitive in key industries of the future. The government has enabled private sector led approach to contributed economy define economic expectations in growing in the private portal and critical sectors. New data released this week shows that since President Biden and President Harris took office, announcement of private sector investment in clean energy and manufacturing in the United States is now surpassed $1 trillion. Bipartisan infrastructure law provides $1 billion in foundational investment in infrastructure such as roads, highways, bridges, drinking water, waterway systems, and $568 billion announced for 66,000 projects nationwide. The CHIPS Act, the Science Act, provides $39 billion in grants and other incentives for semiconductor companies to build fabrication plants and produce cutting edge technology in the United States, which is $34 billion worth of preliminary agreements that have been announced. And the Inflation Reduction Act includes tax credits, grants, loans, and has spurred investment in comprehensive deployment of clean energy, including manufacturing of battery components and critical minerals right here at home. Core to the investing in America models is sending a clear demand for signals addressing the supply side constraints and solving coordination problems, all while strengthening and supporting made in America domestic capacity. So You would say, well, why is there a need to call for a national media campaign to draw attention to the issue of energy justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion? Because Trump's administration has already signaled that they intend to cut these programs completely out. So let's look at what's at stake of being cut out or eliminated. Okay? The U.S. Department of Energy, Office of Justice and Equity. Below you will find an overview for the 2024 year in review, leading change while honoring our historic legacy. This is a letter that was addressed at the beginning of their newsletter. You can find that information on our website by logging on to our news and events tab at positivechangepc.com. You'll, this letter is signed off by Mrs. Tamala N. Gordon, Director and acting as Principal Deputy Director of the Office of Energy and Justice and Equity here in Washington, D.C. This letter goes on to say, ladies and gentlemen, leading change while honoring our historic legacy. This has been a year of growth and change for the Office of Energy, Justice, and Equity, EJE. Yet throughout 2024, EJE has been also the beacon of hope, faithfully dedicated to the decades of long goals, providing underserved and low-income communities and families with the ability to take part in America's energy systems by working with colleagues across the Department of Energy, DOE, its national laboratories, field sites, and the entire federal family. This past spring, I came aboard as Principal Deputy Director at EJE, joining a team with a legacy almost as old as DOE. In 1978, Congress recognized that our energy system was not serving all Americans equitably, with lower income communities uh, uh, likely to face the burden of pollution, disproportionate costs, and diminishing energy services. In response, Congress issued a mandate that created the Office of Empowering it to research and extend cases of those inequities and to advise the Secretary of Energy the way forward. Now, as we began to look uh, at years, what I found myself surrounded by a team of committed to elevating American communities that have been overburdened, underserved, and left behind with the inability to fully participate in the economic prosperity created by technology advances within our energy system. Of note, the EJE staff works directly tirelessly to ensure that all programs and incentives, initiatives are accessible to all Americans and fully realize the benefit of the emerging clean energy economy in the 21st century. Their work provides quality jobs, lower pollution, and access to lower cost renewable energy resources that enhance American independence, security. In fact, this year, the team's outstanding efforts have resulted in several noteworthy victories. Please read and celebrate EJE's accomplishments in 24. From introducing the Regional Energy Democracy Initiative to ensure the efficiency and effectiveness of DOE funding, launching a program connecting university faculty with our nation's laboratories, to implementing policy to ensure that DOE's workforce resembles American populations, and hosting our third annual Justice Week event. EJE was impacted across all of DOE with such more work to be done in 2025. With gratitude, Tamala N. Gordon, Director, Acting, and Principal Deputy Director of the Office of Energy, Justice, and Equity at the U.S. Department of Energy here in Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. This was the opening letter that she put out, and you'll be able to go to our website, and we're going to look at what is actually at stake. Now, when we begin to look at the Justice 40 initiative, you will find that the Office of Energy, Justice, and Equity is across all 6 federal agencies. And as we indicated, Executive Order 14008 created the Justice 40 initiative. This office was charged with developing the written policy format and implementing the programs. So let's take a look at some of their accomplishments in 2024. EJE announced the Regional Energy Democracy Initiative, READ-I, Red-Eye, to be piloted in the U.S. Gulf South through READ-I with a commitment of $5 million. DOE is collaborating with minority serving institutions, community-based organizations, and public-private partnerships to provide capacity building and technical assistance for communities with regional maximum uh, derived from the clean energy investment made by DOE. The program supports the development of community-based benefits plans that address unique needs and priorities of each community, ensuring that the benefit of clean energy projects distributed equity and contribute to the overall well-being of the region. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a slight pause for the calls here on Solar Now and the Future with its Economic Impact, and we'll be right back here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its Economic Impact on Black America. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen. We just need to take a second there to get a little, as we say, aqua or water, so that we can continue our conversation, because we have a lot of information that we want to bring to you today here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its Economic Impact on Black America. Now, as we begin to look at what is going on, ladies and gentlemen, around the energy EJE offices and the initiatives that they have been able to accomplish. If you log onto our website at positivechangepc.com, you want to go over to our news and events tab. Yeah, you want to go over to our news and events tab, and you'll find that you'll be able to find the information that you are in fact uh, looking for. And there will be links to the program, and we want to be able to make sure that we are able to keep everything going at the same time, because what we have here in our studio here that we're working with is having to try to broadcast and go through the information and data and bring that those links to you at the same time. So as we indicated, the Regional Energy Authority Initiative, you'll find a blue link under our news and events tab once you log on to the website, and you'll go under news and events and you'll scroll down to 2024 year in review, leading change while honoring our historic legacy. And that will, in fact, give you the ability to look at what the accomplishments were from the office of EJE at the Department of Energy here in Washington, D.C. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, they've done a tremendous job with these programs that they put out. Now, the community benefits plans, which you will find is a point system, where if you are a major award winner of a major grant, we're talking about major funding, $1 million or higher, or a grantee, because some of these grants were very, very substantial, large grants. You had to show how you were partnering with other minority-owned entities, and how many minorities that you were hiring from the communities that you were actually going to be trying to work with, and how many of those subcontractors would be from those communities, and ran from people, those businesses, of those from those of those renewable energy companies, from those minority companies. And there are concerns there because there are not a lot of Hispanic or African American based firms in the renewable energy sector. This is one of the things that we dwell down on at the National Association of Blacks in Solar, which I've served as president for since 2018. I just stepped down this year. As many of you know, I am also serving now in the capacity as chairman of the board of directors for the National Association of Blacks in Solar. And we have advocated for these companies and more funding for opportunities for these companies. Now, these programs give these companies the opportunity. They need projects. So the resilience hubs in Puerto Rico, after the storm hit, the EJE office established 5 resilient hubs to strengthen community energy resilience for Puerto Rico. Through a cooperative agreement, nearly $1 million of dedicated funding supports community-led development and hubs that provide reliable electricity during grid events or climate-related disasters. The fund supports the development of renewable energy systems such as solar plus storage plus community serving facilities that have historically lacked access to reliable electricity to experience prolonged outages on the island of Puerto Rico. This is one of the initiatives that have come through the office of EJE. They have developed a Justice Week, which yours truly was able to attend since the inception of the Justice Week here at DOE. They've done it the last 3 years. I know I've been able to attend those events. They have been very, very helpful, very informative, and for networking purposes and meeting people who are in the same space with like-minded goals and ambitions around the new green economy as it relates to people of African descent. I mean, this didn't exist before the Biden-Harris administration. It didn't take place under the 8 years of Obama administration, so we know it didn't take place under COVID 45's 4 years. And you can believe that based on the signals that he's made clear, he sent clear to the green economy, these programs are a joke. But if you begin to look at what was done in terms of what has taken place, has been somewhat historical, such as the Faculty Applied Clean Energy and Sciences program. The EJE launched the Faculty Applied Clean Energy Sciences program, FACES, programs to provide clean energy research opportunities for science, technology, engineering, and math. Faculty from minority-serving institutions, tribal colleges and universities, and historically Black colleges and universities. The FACES program goes to promote diversity and inclusion in the energy sector and help teachers inspire STEM students to pursue careers in clean energy. These are the things that are in jeopardy, ladies and gentlemen. Low-income communities bonus credit program. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, EJE successfully partnered with IRS to complete the first of 2 years in the low-income communities bonus credit program. DOE supports IRS with its administration of the program and oversee the program's application portal. In 2023, the program resulted in $3.5 billion in private public clean energy investments from more than 49,000 solar facilities in low and moderate income communities and direct benefited low and moderate households from across the country, including 48 states and the District of Columbia. In 2024, the program year received 50,000 applications to date. The historic program represents the most significant tax incentives in U.S. history to promote clean energy investments in low and moderate income communities and tribal lands within affordable housing. Now, this is what's at stake, ladies and gentlemen, under the offices of EJE. These offices were created once again by Executive Order 14008, which gave rise to Build Back Better, which gave rise to the Inflation Reduction Act. The Justice 40 initiative came out of that. And I've indicated to you, out of the $1.7 trillion, less than 2% have gone to African American institutions. But we are looking at where that 2% was targeted. And we have to agree. This is more than anything that's ever been done. And these programs are intact. These agencies are in place. These people are real, but they don't even know whether they will have a job. This office has been providing a webinar entitled Ask Us Anything. I have been on these webinars for the entire duration since they have been coming on the airways. A year or so ago, I brought up to Mrs. Shalea Marset, who took over after Mrs. Shalonda Baker, who was the person running this office before this young lady came in as the new director. My question was about the codification of funding for these offices so that they would have jobs regardless of what administration took office in 2025. Nobody had time and nobody thought that you'd have COVID-45 coming back and winning the election and returning back to office in 2025. So here we are now, 30 days from a change in administration, which can completely eliminate this department and these agencies, this agency inside of these federal agencies, equity, justice, and energy offices, which is doing this work. I'm reading to you what they are doing. DOE's second equity action plan. The EJE unveiled and released the DOE's second energy action plan, outlining a program made by DEA thus far and its strategies to further advance equity for all Americans. The plan also develops an agency-wide framework to effectively work with tribal, underserved communities to reimagine its clean energy future through real investment and technical assistance, and to ensure that the community voices and decisions making are integrated into DOE's funding, research, and programs. Now, that's great for tribal governments, but Black folks ain't in tribal governments. We don't have tribal governments. What? Where is the Green Economic Development Plan for African Americans in the implementation of the Build Back Better and the Inflation Reduction Act as it relates to the African and African American community here in America? I've raised this question since 2018. I raised the question about where is the Green Economic Development Plan since 2019, rather. We attempted to get the Congressional Black Caucus to host a workshop during one of the Congressional Black Caucus sessions. That was back in 2021, right when the pandemic kicked in, because there were people weren't meeting. They didn't hold the CBC for several years. They could not because of the pandemic. And we were trying to do a workshop around this question. Where's the Green Economic Development? And what does justice for it actually mean? Now, fast forward, 2024, the end of the year, moving forward, on the last Zoom call, because Mrs. Shalea Marset made some, as a young lady, I guess she was angered by my question. Well, politics they don't do anything, and it doesn't determine anything. Well, she knows now for sure, because on their last webinar, I asked the question, will you be hosting these formats in 2025? And tears came to her eyes. And I understood why. Because that was the backdoor question as to why I've been trying to get with them to sit down to talk about a plan and a strategy to get the stakeholders and the grantees and the different nonprofit entities that have applied to these various programs and received funding based on the work that they've done to write letters of support to their congressional representatives to make sure that their office is protected by getting Congress to codify funding for their office and staffs so they will be intact regardless of what administration comes in and out of office. This agency that was created by Biden needs to stay intact. Let's look at further accomplishments of the EJG office. We're looking at the Justice 40 Initiative. You're talking about the Justice 40 Initiative. Okay, DOE Justice 40 Initiative covered programs including 24 offices, over 160 programs, and more than $100 billion in investment. This includes federal investment categories such as energy efficiency, training and workforce development, and other clean energy technologies. Through community benefits plans, DOE remained committed to ensuring that such investments led to tangible economic benefits for underserved communities while increasing access to new energy industries, expertise, enterprise creation, jobs, energy security, overall affordability in these communities. Well, I question some of that, but at least they got it in black and white saying this was their goals and objectives. The reason why I'm saying that, ladies and gentlemen, is because we're looking at a scenario where most of these contracts and initiatives are still being signed off on in December of 2024 under EPA Greenhouse Gas Initiative. The pilot program the Solar for All program, which was started in Washington, D.C. by Ted Preview, who serves on the D.C. Public Service Commission, who's former director for D.C. Sustainable Utility, which was the entity that contracted with the Department of Energy and Environment here in Washington, D.C. to serve as the entity that would pay the installation firms that did the physical installs on low and moderate income communities here in our nation's capital. Well, a Green Bank of Washington, D.C. was established because of how the laws were structured. There was a shortfall in 2016. Because of that shortfall of $15 million for fiscal year 17, after Mayor Bowser signed the first renewable portfolio standard legislation in 2017, the local utility had to pay a fine of $15 million to the DC government, because in the contract, it says that what we know as green credits or RECs must be purchased from PEPCO's customer base, which is the residential, commercial, district, government, federal government, which is the client of PEPCO. But PEPCO can't buy what PEPCO can't get. This is what was said by Mrs. Sandra Fry, who is the lead attorney for the People's Council here at the Public Service Commission here in Washington, D.C., in her testimony in October of 2018, which I testified at those same hearings, that if you don't have enough companies with enough systems and homeowners and residents with enough systems on their roof, and the energy that they don't use, that excess energy is sold back to the local utility, then there will always be a shortfall. And PEPCO will always be fined. And this was at a 50% renewable portfolio standard legislation. The reason why I'm going into this is talking about the equity side of these actual programs. Now, what has come to pass is that we find that these fees have been passed on to the ratepayers in all 50 states. I can speak and show truth to power here, and I live right outside of the District of Columbia, where I have $200 in fees on my electricity bill. Doesn't have anything to do with the bill of use. These are fees. And I'm going to have a conversation with my state delegate, congressman, and senator about these things, because this is the process, ladies and gentlemen. That's why this program are so important that I'm talking about through these EJE offices. These are the only opportunities that we will get as low and moderate income citizens to be able to relieve some of this burden. Now, they also started through the EJE office a language access plan, because you have so many new folks who come to the country, known as immigrants, who don't speak the language, but these people pay utility bills. Environmental Justice Strategy Plan, EJE released the Environmental Justice Strategy Plan to set forth DOE's approach to institutionalizing environmental justice within programs, policies, activities, guided by principles of energy and environment justice. Its aims to establish new goals, objectives, and support resilient communities to ensure meaningful public participation in DOE's decision-making process related to human health and environment. Well, some folks don't want that, okay? I don't know why, but these are the accomplishments, a few of the accomplishments that you will find the Office of Energy and Justice here in Washington, D.C., accomplished in 2024. And if you go through our database, which goes back to 2016, you will find since the Biden and Harris administration took office, billions of dollars in grant opportunities through the Inflation Reduction Act and things and funding opportunities that came forth through that. Now, we're looking at these offices of energy, justice, and equity across all 6 federal agencies completely being eliminated by COVID 45 plus 2 and his crew. So this is what we're talking about. We need to be understanding that this should not be the return of Jim Crow in 24 with COVID 45 knocking on the door with his new administration to eliminate this work that has been done. There must be a national call to action to get Congress, being that they have kicked the budget process down the road for 3 months until Trump administration will be in office. So we need to be real serious about contacting those entities that are in those red states that are receiving billions of dollars from the Inflation Reduction Act and these programs, and why those congressmen and senators won't support funding to codify this new office, which has done the work to allow this funding and programs to reach their community. Now, I hope I've connected the dots. I've had to do 2 separate programs this morning around this topic, because here at the Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative, you're on our online digital podcast radio YouTube network. And we are not the greedy, but we are definitely the needy. So if you would like to go to our website at positivechangepc.com, click on our GoFundMe link, you will find that we've been trying to raise some funding to help this platform provide you with more of this type of information that nobody else is talking about. Very few people have the data. Well, we've done the work. We got the data. We have the information. We know the people who have done the work, who are inside these agencies, and they need our support, whether they know it or not, because it will make a difference. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I've come to the end of another exciting edition of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. And as we say, we're not here just talking for us to hear ourselves talk. We're hoping that we're bringing you news that you can definitely use, because this time around, as everybody's saying, everybody's playing for keeps. So since we're in a high stakes game, we need to be real clear and real serious about what we're talking about what we're doing, and how we're trying to get it done. Because see, ain't nobody gonna save us but us, and that's real. So as we've been saying on this show time and time again, we don't want you to meet us back here. We want you to beat us back here as we close another edition of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America here on the show. And with that being said, like I said, we want you to not meet us back here next week, but to meet us back here on Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America.